Hi everyone, it's Vicky here and welcome back to another art journal video. Today I'm playing on my A5 paper journal, and to start with I will be playing with rice paper for my background. This is one of the papers from my collection Welcome Home with Stamperia, and I'm going to show you a couple more that I have from the same collection. So this is the one that gives you a lovely bicycle to play with along with a border at the top, and there is another one with many clocks. So I'm going to start by sticking down the rice paper that I chose, and this is a great way to start an art journal when you don't know what to do, because you get an instant background and you get rid of that blank page. For sticking everything down, I apply a nice coat of mixed media glue at the page, then I apply the rice paper on top, and I'm also going to make sure that I cover up with mixed media glue the rice paper on top. This way I know that the glue is going to penetrate through the rice paper, it's going to stick nicely on top of the page, and if you end up with some wrinkles here and there, don't worry too much about that, because really this is going to give you some extra texture and you can look at it as part of the page. Now, one thing that you can do if you find that the design of a rice paper is very vibrant and you want to knock it back a little bit, you can always go ahead and apply a little bit of white paint, very diluted however. You can see here I am making it more pale, but at the same time I'm not covering up completely the beautiful design of the flowers. Now I'm also going to add a little bit of primer. You can do that with gesso, you can do that with thick white paint. I'm just going to apply paint here and there with my spatula. This creates some areas of interest with different texture and different color than the background, and I'm also going to make sure that I cover up the logo at the bottom. Now I want to have kind of a vintage look and feel on my page, so I'm starting with the cream ink pad and I'm going all over the page, just really quickly applying this color to get rid of that super white areas. And notice how the color gives you different effect over the paint and over the rice paper. Now I'm going to switch to the darker color of brown, and that's coffee, again from my collection of dye ink pads, and I'm going to go all around the edges, just to ink up the edges and make them kind of darker. I am also going to add some splatters. For that again I'm using coffee dye ink on my glass mat. I'm going to apply some water, and then with a thin brush I'm going to add lots of splatters at the background. Now at this stage you can use a stencil, you can do some stamping. However, since I have all those things going on in my background with the flowers, I'm going to stop here. Now for my composition I'm going to bring in my 12 by 12 paper pad, and from this one I chose two pattern papers. From this one I want to use the sky, and from the second one I'm just going to use the back. So I'm going to bring in my scissors and start cutting out the parts that I need. Just cut out one of them, and then I will use this as a template to cut out an area from the sky at about the same size. And of course at this stage you can choose if you want to have a little bit of a ground along with the houses, or if you want to have only the sky. In my case I went only with the sky, and now let's distress them a little bit. So again I'm going with coffee all around the edges. I will do a little bit of stamping, and this is a text stamp from my clocks stamp set from the latest collection. And then again I will do that with coffee ink. So I'm using the same color, I'm using the same details on all the different pieces, which is going to bring everything together. I'm not using a stamping block for my stamping. I like this to look organic instead of having rectangle blocks of text there. And then with my scissors I'm going to go all around the edges to distress them even more, and I will do that for both those pieces. Now the idea that I have is to layer those two pieces of paper one on top of another, and then use one of the balloons from my collection. You can find a balloon in one of the collectables pages so that you can cut it out. You can also find it in the chipboards, and there are two balloons in the chipboard set. So you can choose the size that you like and fits your page, or even the color that you like. For this page I decided to go with the one from the paper, so I'm using my scissors to cut it out. And I also chose a little house from the Ephemera pack. Again, you can cut it out from the Collectables like I'm cutting out the balloon right now. And the idea is to have the balloon holding the house up in the sky. So now I'm ready to put my composition together. I'm going to stick everything down with my matte glue, and I'm not adding glue all the way to the edges. This is something that I always like to do so that if I have an idea later on to tuck things underneath, I can always do that. Now you can see that I cut out the basket from the hot air balloon so that I can stick there the house. And the glue from the ephemera is quite forgiving if you don't press it too hard down. So if you don't press it too hard, you can always slightly lift it and add other elements underneath. Now I'm going to decorate the balloon as well as the house with some extra ephemera flowers and leaves. And I'm going to put on some music so you can see how I put everything together, and I catch you back in a bit. Okay, so for now I'm happy with how it looks. I grabbed my very thin black marker and I'm drawing some lines around those papers as well as along those cutout pieces. This is going to help all those elements to pop against each other, and it is a little detail that I like to do sometimes. I am also adding a little bit of doodling. And at this stage I'm quite happy with how it looks, but I will go ahead and add even more details as I go along. Now to add even more interest and some extra elements on my page, I grabbed this punch that I have and I'm going to use a scrap of this pattern paper. This is again from the same collection. I'm just folding it in half, and then I'm going to punch a couple of tabs. And now I'm going to use my glue and stick them down. And of course, this is where it comes handy not to have on your elements glue all the way to the edges, because you can see here I can easily tuck things underneath. So here is the second tab. I'm going to add that just above the butterfly on the other piece of paper. And of course you can leave those tabs as they are, or if you want to make them even more fun, you can always add some words on top of them. So here I went with enjoy today for the one of them and happiness for the other. And as I usually do with those labels, I'm going to grab my thin black marker and outline them. Now since I can go on and on with little details forever, here I just cut out a pink heart which I am sticking just above the chimney as if it is coming up from there, and then with my black thin marker I outline that as well. So everything is coherent, they all have some black outlining. And now I'm going to work on my main quote. For that I went with home is where your heart is, and I'm using those dies to cut out letter by letter out of black cardstock. I am going only with the two words from this phase, home and heart, which I'm not going to torture you and show you how I stick letter by letter down, but here it is with the magic of video editing. And then for the in-between I'm just using my label maker. So I get a lot of questions about my label maker. I do have different refills. This is the demo one and you will find it linked down below. I have a refill that gives you black letter on white background and another refill that gives you white letters on black background. So depending on my project I switch in between them. Also they are quite wide and I always like them to be thinner. So that's why I just use my scissors to make them exactly the size that I want. And we are down to finishing touches, so here comes my white gel pen. I'm adding some highlights on all those black letters, as well as adding some doodling on the cutouts. I will do that on pretty much all the cutouts. I'm not paying any attention on where the light comes, I'm just doodling here and there. This is another one of my go-to techniques that I feel like it gives a whimsical look, and at the same time it helps all those different elements to come together but separate from each other. And of course you can stop here, or if you are like me and you are having so much fun that you don't want to leave those pages alone, you can go ahead and draw a border like I'm doing here, just some doodling lines all around. It kind of matches the rest of the design since I did that on the rectangle pages that I stuck down on my project. But you can definitely use a stencil if you like to create a border. There are so many different options. And finally, let's add those white splatters and call this done. This is white acrylic paint that I dilute with water, and I'm going to add lots of splatters all over the place. So that was the project for today. I hope that you had fun and that you got inspired. If you did, don't forget to leave me a comment as well as like the video, it really helps. Links to everything I use can be found down below in the description. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.